Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the sports podcast of the Kansas City Star and KCUR. It's Tuesday, November 4th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Star columnist Sam McDowell joins me to talk Chiefs and a 28-21 loss to the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. Sam and I watched it from the press box in Buffalo, and afterwards chatted with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and several other players to get their thoughts on what went wrong for the visitors. You can read those stories in the Star, and you'll hear from Mahomes later in the show. Also, we will look at the playoff chase for the Chiefs. At the moment, they are not running in the lead pack. And after we finish, I'll have some final thoughts and tell you what's on my radar in Kansas City sports. Hi, Sam.
Hey, Blair. How's it going?
Not bad. Could be better for the Chiefs. You know, coming into Buffalo and losing isn't new for these guys. It's been 5 straight years of falling to the Bills and Josh Allen in the regular season. Not always in Buffalo, but it's been in Buffalo the last few years. But it's always worked out at the end for the Chiefs because 4 times since 2020, the Chiefs have defeated the Bills in the playoffs. But this time, the Chiefs better fix a few things before thinking about the playoffs. You went with offensive line as your top concern. Why?
Well, I just thought Patrick Mahomes was under duress the entire day. I mean, Next Gen Stats had something that he was pressured on over half of his dropbacks for the first time in 5 years. And he was either hit or hurried 15 times in the game, and 9 of those came from the edges. Like the Chiefs tackles struggled. This game looked more reminiscent of the circumstances environment that they put Patrick Mahomes in a year ago, rather than the team we've seen over the last month. And, I think a lot of that's on the offensive line, but I think some of that is on the receivers weren't able to get open quickly enough. And I think some of that is on a quarterback that probably could have stood to be a little bit more aggressive in the game when he knows that the pressure's coming and trying maybe to throw to a tighter window than he's comfortable with. But it all made for a pretty bad formula here in Buffalo.
Well, let's stay on the offensive line for a second. We're already dealing with first-round draft pick Josh Simmons not being there. Jalen Moore took a spot. I thought he had a rough overall game, but especially the first half.
Yeah, I agree. Bosa was lined up against him a lot, and I thought Bosa, the Bills fans have probably been getting a little antsy with Bosa, Joey Bosa, and whether or not that he's been worth, I think it was about $12 million that they paid him for the single year. So, but they got their money's worth last night. And it actually, and I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent here, but it actually had me wondering that, the Chiefs spent $10 million on Christian Fulton, and had they gotten a guy like Bosa instead for $2 more million, does the outcome of yesterday's game change because of that? And I think you could really make an argument it does.
Wow, just thinking about that, having Joey Bosa lining up outside with Chris Jones inside and maybe Karlaftis on.
Karlaftis is playing pretty well. Yeah, Karlaftis, I think, is one of the few guys that had a pretty good day yesterday.
Moore wasn't the only news on the offensive line. Juwan Taylor actually left the game late. I believe it was an ankle.
Yeah.
Ankle. And so Wanye Morris finished up at right tackle. And he's a try-hard guy, but it's not a great thing when Wanye Morris is in the game, especially in a tight situation.
Yeah, the Chiefs think that too. He's their 4th tackle. I think, people could forget and think he's their 3rd tackle because Josh Simmons' his absence has been so lengthy now, but the interception stands out. It's 3rd and long. It's the Chiefs' only possession really until the Hail Mary possession where they have an opportunity to tie the game with just a touchdown, not needing a 2-point conversion, just 7 points down. And on 3rd and long, Patrick Mahomes drops back in the pocket, and right in his face already is pressure, and it's Wanye Morris's side. And at that point, Patrick Mahomes just determines that, hey, throwing this ball deep and up for grabs, maybe you get a flag, maybe you do come down with a catch, is better than taking a sack there. And that was the decision he was confronted with quite frequently on Sunday.
You had another stat in your column. I thought I had to double check it. I know you had already checked, but I had to double check it because I couldn't believe it. It was the first time in his pro career and maybe his Texas Tech career where he was held under 50% completion in a game. He was stunned by this.
Yeah. That was the only qualification because there was twice where he replaced Davis Webb and was under 50%. But Yeah, and I think we dug into his high school career enough to know it probably didn't happen in high school, and he didn't play a lot of quarterback growing up. So I'd imagine that's the first time in his life he started a football game and completed fewer than 50% of his passes, which is why, to me, the things you let off with are what you have to go to. Because if this guy's played 200 games in his life and has never completed fewer than 50% of his passes, okay, why? Why did this happen?
He was 15 of 34.
Yeah.
So he was way under 50%.
Yeah.
It wasn't 15 to 31. And of course, listen, the last three were the Hail Marys at the end from the 40. Those go on his completion percentage.
They do, yeah. But he was under 50 before that, right?
That's right. That's right. Finished with 250 yards. So what was it about man defense that really befuddled the Chiefs?
I think first of all is that they haven't seen a lot of it this year. I mean, that certainly plays into what we're talking about. And Buffalo's ability to get home is you have to defend well enough to allow your guys the time to get home. Because what was odd about this is as frequently as they pressured him, they didn't have a lot of quick pressures, which was the under 2.5 seconds to pressure. And Patrick Mahomes often releases the ball in under 2.5 seconds. But that's what I'm saying, the fact that this is more of a formula, and the offensive line played a huge part, but there's other pieces of this that made that, a bigger factor. And, Patrick Mahomes has been the best quarterback in football against zone defense this year, but particularly over this last month. The stat I used in the column was that, this is a stat that comes from the site FTN, is his expected points added on zone plays has been 63 over the last 4 games. No other quarterback has even had half of that. He's more than twice as good as any quarterback against zones. So I think if you're the Bills, you're like, we're not playing that coverage. We've seen what the Chiefs have done against that coverage over the last month. Let's try something different. And it's surprising to me that this is the team that was able to execute that so well, because they don't have great defensive backs. And they're fine. They're not elite.
I was going to say, I don't know what I expected from this game, but I thought it'd be a little bit more of a shootout. I thought the Chiefs would be able to score. Maybe they lose a shootout, but they get to 30, and they didn't come close to 30 in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
or 28, because they had the run of 28, right? Yeah, that's 4 games.
Certainly, the Bills' passing defense has statistically been good, but then when you factor in the opponents that they've played, which is what a stat like DVOA does, is it factors in who are you playing. I mean, the Bills have not faced good competition defensively. So I think they were second in total pass yards allowed per game, but I think their DVOA pass defense was like 20th, because their schedule was the second easiest quarterback schedule that they faced this year. And so you thought, facing somebody real like Patrick Mahomes, the leading candidate for MVP, was going to be problematic for him. And I certainly thought it would be too. I mean, I had predicted, I think the Chiefs would have 27, even the 21 points that they got, other than, they had a terrific drive that ended with the Rashee Rice run. But other than that, it seemed like a difficult day. And a lot of that is just because your quarterback's under duress all day.
Sam McDowell, star columnist, is here. We're talking Chiefs, Bills. Well, a lot of other things went wrong for the Chiefs. But one thing that I didn't think was a problem, that I wasn't sure, Isaiah Pacheco didn't play. Started out running back. Kareem Hunt got the start. He played well. I was, in hindsight, it seems like the Chiefs maybe should have dedicated a little more effort to running. But Hunt ended up with 49 yards, maybe about 4.5 yards per carry. Effective early, but then the Chiefs fall behind, and it's a different game plan at that point. I think the bigger surprise wasn't so much Kareem Hunt's success, but it was the depth chart, the running back depth chart. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire was running back number 3 and got a couple of attempts, had a nice little 7-yard run in the game, but Elijah Mitchell did not get the call, and we were all a little surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right on all these accounts. I mean, first of all, if Elijah Mitchell's on the 53-man roster, I can't really figure out why now, if he's behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the depth chart. I think the Chiefs would love us to believe the excuse is that Clyde Edwards-Helaire has had success in Buffalo. That was in 2020. And I just used a 2020 game to mention how long it's been since Patrick Mahomes has been pressured that frequently, to show the length of time. Like a running back having a great game in 2020 is not an excuse to have him dress in 2025. So I don't know why Elijah Mitchell has a spot on the roster if he can't dress for that game. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire did get, the ball a couple of times. But your other point I think is valid too, which is the Bills were daring the Chiefs to run the ball. And they had the fifth highest light box ratio of any team in the league this week was the Bills against the Chiefs. And when you look at the other games, it's all games in which teams were forced to pass the ball. It was the Falcons faced a ton of light boxes. They trailed the whole game. They were in pass mode. The Colts faced a ton of light boxes. They were in pass mode. The Giants, they trailed the whole game. The Bears were in that shootout against the Bengals. And then you have the Chiefs who, in the first half, still faced a ton of light boxes. I mean, the Bills were daring them to run. So I think, it as the Chiefs enter a bye week, their front office is not on a bye, because here we are with the trade deadline, and there's a few spots I think the Chiefs could use, and one of them is a running back that the other team will respect enough to make life easier for your passing game.
One play that did not work for the Chiefs when they kept it on the ground was a first down run, first and goal from the 1. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, your choice or maybe turning point of the game, it was the end of the first half, and the Chiefs zip down the field, a 20-yard completion to Travis Kelce, a 40-yard strike to Hollywood Brown. He doesn't get in the end zone. He's down at the 1, and there are 20 seconds left. The Chiefs have one timeout with first and goal at the 1, and they go up the middle to Kareem Hunt. He does not score. Then I think the Chiefs, they took a timeout there.
Yeah.
So 15 seconds remain. They go incomplete, field goal. And this is just kind of against your religion.
Yeah. I mean, it was really, I thought, the worst sequence that they've had probably this year. I really disagree with kicking the field goal there. I understand that you're down 11 points, that you want to get it to one possession because you're getting the ball after second half. But then it puts all the eggs in the basket to score a touchdown in that first drive of the second half, which they did not. And then they're trailing by 2-1 possession for the rest of the game. But the probability models had it somewhere between 5 and 7% drop in your win probability when you elect to kick the field goal there. But I think you have to backtrack for why they got themselves into that spot, which is you have one timeout. 20 seconds is enough to run 4 plays if they're all incomplete passes, right? No play, right? And the 1 yard line is going to take more than 5 seconds. You have time to run 4 plays. So it's how can you get 4 plays out of it? Well,
4 complete passes into the end zone. 4 complete passes, they would probably all go to the end zone.
Right. So they had a chance for 4 plays. They only took 3. But to me, once you ran the ball on first down and called timeout, which, look, has been a highly successful play, a really successful play this year, is to run Kareem Hunt and try and get 1 yard. But once you do that and don't get it, you're forcing yourself to pass on second and third down. And then the Bills know you're passing. And it becomes much easier to play defense when you know that the other team's going to pass or run the ball. And you telegraphed what you're going to do on both those plays. If they had passed the ball on first down, the Bills are still going to respect the run on that play. And then maybe you pass again on second down. They're still respecting the run on that play. It's just, you keep the defense on their toes, but instead you cornered yourself into what you had to do on second and third down, and then you made the wrong decision on fourth down.
And they actually scored on a 4th and 1
later in the game.
Okay, let's hear what Patrick Mahomes had to say about this play. Sam, I believe you asked him the question.
Yeah, we got to find a way to get in the end zone. Just after the big play and getting down at the half-yard line, kind of the run play, we weren't able to get in, and two chances for me, and I tried to get the trap, and obviously he took the big hit. But we got to find a way to get in the end zone. So I got to be better there, and situationally we got to be better. I thought we had a couple of those where we didn't really execute at a high enough level, and that's why we got the loss.
Not especially revealing, but I think he understood the moment as well.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is that Patrick Mahomes was making that decision that they are going for it there. It's just, I mean, I've written about this a lot and talked about this a lot. I mean, the Chiefs are better than any team in football in short yardage. And I understand that sounds a little hypocritical because we just talked about the fact they ran the ball on first down and did not get it. But this has never been about playing certainties. It's playing probabilities. And their probability is a higher probability than any team in the NFL on that play. And Andy Reid's been great at this all year. He told, our Pete Sweeney in week 2, that he hasn't changed his formula on fourth down. He absolutely has. And it's a credit to him that he's recognized he has something good going on short yardage. And so to me, it was a departure from what we've seen him do the first 8 weeks, which is tend towards aggressive. And I can't help but mention the fact that he didn't get a fourth down earlier in the game. And to me, this was always going to be a real test of his fourth down aggression, which is what happens when you don't get one. Are you still putting the foot down, or then suddenly are you concerned about not getting 2 in the same sequence? And I don't know that factored into it, but I don't know that it did.
All right, let's take a break here, and when we come back, we'll look forward to, not next weekend, the Chiefs are on their bye, but in 2 weeks they play the Denver Broncos. We're back on SportsBeat KC, the sports podcast of the Kansas City Star and KCUR. I'm Blair Kirkhoff here with star columnist Sam McDowell. How about the Chiefs being 0-4 in one-score games this year?
Yeah.
After going 12-0, including the postseason a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it speaks to both years, not just this year, because we talked about it a lot last year that we didn't think the team was 15-win good last year because of that. They couldn't even blow out bad teams, and some of those games are great execution late in the game. Some of them, like the Raiders game, fall into their lap. And so I think when you see a team go 0-4, they went 12-0 year before in those spots, it shows the fluky nature of stringing together 12, the side of the coin coming up your favor 12 straight times. And I think the same thing about the 4 that go against you. There's been some fluky stuff. That Jacksonville game, I think, you can lose games in Buffalo by 7. I think when we look at the reason the Chiefs have 4 losses, it's going to be games like that Jacksonville game that I think are going to be more haunting.
Yeah, so the outcome leaves the Chiefs at 5-4. Denver's victory at Houston makes the Broncos 7-2, and the Broncos and the Chiefs play in 2 weeks. The Broncos have their bye after they play the Chiefs, but right now am I right with 7-2, or is it 6-2 for Denver? I can't now.
7-2, and speaking of the one-score games, I mean, they could have lost the opener to Tennessee, which was a bad team.
Should have lost to the New York Giants.
Absolutely should have lost to the Giants. They were shut out in the first 3 quarters and somehow scored 33 points on the fourth. They could have easily lost to the Jets. The Jets have a chance to win the game in London on the last drive. They should have lost to the Eagles. They were down 17-3. I think they probably got away with the DPI late in that game that would have put the Eagles at like the 2 or 3 yard line. I mean, the Broncos are sitting here having a similar season to what I think the Chiefs had last year, to where I wonder and doubt even, are they really as good as their record?
We'll get into the Broncos in a bigger way on next week's show, but let's just look at the Chiefs' second half schedule. After Denver, home to Indianapolis, at Dallas, home to Houston and the LA Chargers, at Tennessee, Denver at home, that's the Christmas night game, and at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Chiefs are 5-4. Like we mentioned at the top, they are outside of the playoff bracket right now. If the season ended today, they're the 8th seed. You got to get in the top 7 to get there. I don't know, because it's a first place schedule, there's some tougher challenges for the Chiefs than what normally would be. Well, just playing Denver twice for starters, going to Dallas. They get the Chargers again, the team that's already beat them. I think it's going to be tough for the Chiefs to get a division winning record, which might be 13 or 12 at the least, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I said this before the year, and I still wonder, like, what is the easiest 2-game swing that they have? And I think early in the year you might have said like the Colts and Dallas, but the Colts are real. And now, then you might have switched it to, okay, Dallas and then Houston. But Houston's defense is as good as literally any defense in the NFL. And I think the break the Broncos caught yesterday is the fact that they were able to knock C.J. Stroud out of the game. And I don't think they win that game unless that happens. And Stroud might be back by the time that they face the Chiefs. It's a really tough schedule. And the Chiefs are going to have to win some of these games that we literally just talked about, these close games. Like, you're not going to coast through and get to 10 wins with 10 blowouts and 5. There's not 5 blowouts left on this schedule. You're going to have to win some close games.
No doubt about it. I think the Chiefs have to go 6-2 again in these final 8 to get to 11-6. That'll get them in the playoffs.
I think 10 will get in. I mean, I guess the fact that I don't really believe in Jacksonville, which occupies the 7 spot, but yeah, you're right. I mean, you look at the division winners, it's 7-2, 7-2, 7-2, then someone has to win out of the AFC North, right? And those division leaders that I mentioned don't include the 6-2 Bills or the 6-3 Chargers. I do think that Jacksonville is susceptible. And so I think 10 wins gets there. And I think it's possible to say that even a 9-win team won't get left out.
Well, there's definitely an upper half and lower half of the AFC. Chiefs are, no matter what their record is, they're in the upper half, and below the Chiefs is when you start getting to the sub 500s. I think everybody's at least 2 under 500.
They are
below the Chiefs.
The one's the Ravens. So that's definitely a team that, especially when you look at their schedule, I think could get to 9 or 10.
Let's hear what Patrick Mahomes had to say about kind of the urgency of the Chiefs as they head into the bye.
It's like you got to do it now. Like there's no easy game coming up, and there's no more chances that we can really take losses. So I mean, you got to learn from it fast, and we got to be better as a team. Offensively, we got to be better, especially on some of those big drives we had in the second half. And I think we'll just continue to push away and learn on this bye week, and then come back and be ready to play our best football coming off of it.
Got to do it now. He's right.
Yeah, I mean, he was also asked about playing Buffalo again in the playoffs, and he's said, well, we got to get there first. And I do marvel a little bit at just his ability to always answer in the right way, just not assume things. There's always he so rarely has said something that slights any future opponent. I mean, that would have not even been a comment about any single future opponent, and he still is able to have this. I mean, the takeaway from that answer and the one I mentioned are both that respecting everyone left on his schedule. But I mean, the schedule you mentioned, they should.
Yeah. I mean, but you're right. I've always thought that about Mahomes, that he gives you a useful answer all the time, a useful response.
Yeah, I mean, I just wonder I mean, there's guys in every locker room in every sport in every city in the country that I think the PR staff probably has to work with. He just doesn't seem like it seems like a good, just go out there. You'll handle this.
Perfect. Little revelation here. We're actually recording this on Monday from upstate New York. So the trade deadline is Tuesday. Do you expect the Chiefs to make a move?
I expect them to try. I think that the Chiefs, at the moment as we talk now, aren't sure what their answer to that would be, whether or not they expect to make a move. But I think it's clear they need help on the defensive line, and it's clear they need help at running back. And so just the price is always going to dictate that stuff. I will say, I think more this year than years past, there are some teams that are just clearly not competitive right now. When you look at Tennessee, the Jets, Miami, Cleveland, Vegas,
Saints,
in the AFC, Cincinnati, the Giants. I mean, there are a lot of bad teams in the NFL right now.
Yeah. So there could be some sellers.
Yeah, and I mean, some teams I think need to come to grips with where they are. But this is the weird state of the NFL is you get the cycle of getting rid of head coaches and general managers and front offices is so swift that when teams have the years that I just talked about with some of these bad teams, they fear they're gone anyway. And so there's some teams that need to be looking for the future that really aren't. I mean, they're pressed to try and get to 7-10 to make it a respectable year to get another year. And, I think of a team like the Bengals and that, like, the Bengals don't have Joe Burrow. They need to be looking forward to next year because they've got some real assets on their team with Trey Hendrickson, for example. But if you continue to ask for a first-round pick for him, you're going to wind up getting nothing and then be in the same contract dilemma you were in the offseason. And there's a few teams I just wonder if they can come to grips with where they are. Miami's another one.
Okay, so we'll see. All right, Sam, that was not our last trip to Buffalo, but our last trip to old Highmark Stadium. They're moving into a new stadium.
I mean, we might be back.
That's right. They're moving into a new stadium that's being built in almost the same parking lot next door. So good luck with the renovation, the movement. I bring it up for a couple reasons. One, the Chiefs are looking at a new stadium. They're playing in Denver in 2 weeks. Your next opponent's also, seems to be a little farther down the road and investing on a new stadium. So any new developments on the Chiefs stadium front?
No, I mean, I think the newest development is really the outside. Obviously with what we talked about a couple of weeks ago with the movement at the Jackson County Executive with Phil Lavoda now taking over. I am told that the Chiefs have had conversations with him, but I also don't. I think the stadium's a priority for him, but not his number one priority in this short-term role, this year-long role that he's got. And the Chiefs have some urgency. I know the Chiefs are feeling some urgency to get this thing moving because they certainly feel as though this Kansas offer expires at the end of the year. And I think if we don't hear anything by the end of the year, it's going to be tougher and tougher for Kansas to seem realistic for them. And I think that's the way they're operating as well.
Okay. Well, here's hoping that whatever new features the new Highmark Stadium brings, it comes with better directions to the stadium, because yesterday's experience was the worst traffic experience in my professional career, and I have gotten caught in Rose Bowl parade traffic.
Yeah.
What we experienced going the 30 miles to the stadium from where we're staying is something unlike I have ever experienced.
We had a tour of the whole outside of the stadium.
We did.
Just inch by inch.
Every angle, inch by inch. Yep. All right, great conversation as always, Sam. Thanks a lot. I'll be back with some final thoughts. And here's what's on my radar in Kansas City sports this week. The KC Current wrapped up the NWSL regular season with a 2-1 victory over the San Diego Wave on Sunday and finished with a league record 21 victories and 2 draws in 26 games to win the NWSL Shield. Now it's on to the playoffs as the top seed, and we know the Current will meet Gotham FC on Sunday at CPKC Stadium at 11:30 a.m. The game will be televised by ABC. What we don't know, as we're recording this, is the status of star player Temwa Chawinga. She suffered a hip injury a couple of weeks ago and hasn't played since. Chawinga, by the way, won the Golden Boot as the league's top scorer for the second year in a row. We have some Royals news. How good was the left side of the infield this season? Well, Bobby Witt Jr., the shortstop, and third baseman Michael Garcia now own Gold Gloves. The awards were announced on Sunday. It's the second for Witt and a first for Garcia. It's interesting to note that the Royals have had more Gold Glove winners, 24, than any team in baseball over the past 15 years. Well, that'll do it for this week. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC staff of Randy Mason, Monty Davis, Irvin Zhang, Suzanne Hogan, and Gabriella Lacey, and to our editors, Jeff Rosen and Scott Chasen. We'll be back next week with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City.